The Welcome Patrol. The alien patrol ship, Zirek, drifted silently near the edge of the neutral zone. Commander Valar stood on the bridge, arms crossed behind his back. His sharp eyes scanned the data screen in front of him. A small human shuttle, sir, unarmed, minimal shielding, reported his second-in-command. Valar raised an eyebrow. Alone? In this sector? Yes, Commander. He smirked. Bring them in. Let's see what the mighty humans are made of. The bridge crew chuckled. For years, the Galactic Union had viewed humans as a weak, unpredictable species. Loud, emotional, primitive. They fought using codes and rules. They spoke of something called war crimes, as if kindness belonged on a battlefield. Foolish. Today, Valar would prove it. The human shuttle was pulled aboard without resistance. The ship was old, scratched, and clearly not military class. It looked like a training vessel or a scout ship. Harmless. The docking crew opened the airlock. One man stepped out. Tall. Quiet. Wearing dark green, body armor with no insignia. He did not raise his hands. He simply looked around the room as if he already knew where everything was. A single name tag rested on his chest. Sergeant Keller. Is this how you say hello? He asked calmly. Valar stepped forward. Sergeant Keller of Earth, you are in violation of Galactic Neutral Zone 7. Keller looked unimpressed. Valar smiled mockingly. Tell me, human, what were you doing so far from your home planet? Keller didn't answer. Scan him, Valar ordered. The tech team scanned Keller's body and gear. No weapons, said the technician. Only a neural patch and basic field kit. Valar laughed. No weapons? What were you planning to do? Negotiate? Us to death? Keller finally spoke. I was watching. Watching what? Valar asked. Keller's eyes locked with his. You. They placed Keller in a holding cell made of reinforced plasteel. Guards were assigned outside. His communications were blocked. Still, he remained calm. Sitting on the bench, hands on his knees. Not angry. Not nervous, just waiting. Outside the cell, alien officers discussed him like he wasn't even there. They say humans cry when they lose a fight. They say they hide behind treaties. They say they fear breaking their own rules. Valar entered the cell. He stood before Keller with 2 guards behind him. You're alone, Sergeant. No army. No ship. No weapons. What do you think will happen now? Keller didn't move. Valar leaned closer. This is a war zone. You understand what that means? Keller looked up slowly. I do. That's why I'm here. Valar narrowed his eyes. Explain. Keller stood up. You intercepted a distress signal 2 days ago. Civilian transport, unarmed. Valar said nothing. Keller took 1 step forward. You took prisoners, broke comms, shut down records. That's not war, that's something else. Valar grinned. Yes, human. That's called power. Keller didn't blink. No, that's called a war crime. The room went silent. Valar frowned. And what does that mean to you? Keller looked him dead in the eye. It means you've made a mistake. Outside the patrol ship, space was calm, still, quiet. Then a blip appeared on the long-range scanner. 1 ship, then another, then 6, then 12. All human, but not warships. They didn't look like a fleet. They looked like ghosts. Fast. Cold. No. Transponders, no lights. Valar was alerted. Commander, incoming vessels. What kind? We don't know. They're not in any system database. Valar rushed to the command deck. Get shields up. They're not firing, sir. Then hail them. They're not answering. Back in the cell, Keller stood as if nothing was happening. A light blinked on his wristband. He tapped it once. Valar ran to him. What is this? What are those ships? Keller looked bored. That's called restraint breaking. Valar shouted. What do you want? Keller replied softly. I told command you were poking at Earth's peacekeepers. They said, make sure they understand what not to do next time. Valar's voice trembled. What does that mean? Keller's eyes turned cold. It means you get one warning. He leaned forward. And this was it. Suddenly, every screen on the alien ship turned white. Every weapon system shut down. Engines froze. Power dropped. Then one message appeared on every console in the alien's language. We are humans, and this is us being gentle. Valar fell silent. Keller turned and walked out of the cell, the doors unlocking for him on their own. No alarms, no shots fired, just fear. Real fear. As the human ships faded away into the black of space, one alien technician whispered to another, I thought humans were weak. The other replied, voice shaking, no, they just don't like showing their teeth. The silence before fire. The alien warship Jirek floated quietly in deep space, still recovering from what had just happened. No weapons had fired, no blood had spilled. Yet the entire crew, war-trained, battle-hardened, had been brought to their knees. By silence, by fear, by one human. Commander Valar stood at the edge of the command deck, staring at the dark view beyond the glass. No human ships remained. They had vanished into the stars as if they had never been there. But the fear remained. The message glowed softly on every screen across the ship. We are humans, and this is us being gentle. Deep below the deck in a sealed room, alien intelligence officers huddled around a table. They reviewed files, read reports, and whispered things they had never dared say aloud. One analyst trembled as she opened. A file labeled Human Psychological Warfare, Category Red. Her superior, a wide-eyed alien with gray skin and a shaky hand, leaned over her shoulder. Report. She hesitated. Sir, we've underestimated them. He narrowed his eyes. Everyone says that. Show me why. She tapped a control. A hologram flickered to life. It showed grainy footage, archived from a human conflict long before interstellar travel. The video was silent, black and white, but what it showed chilled the room. A human soldier, smiling, calmly walking through smoke, untouched by gunfire. Not because the enemy missed, but because the enemy had stopped firing. They had dropped their weapons and ran. The alien analyst's voice trembled. That was a human response to a hostage crisis. One operative. No backup. No negotiation. Just strategy. Her superior leaned closer. What did he do? She gulped. He let them live. Every single one. Confusion filled the room. Why is that terrifying? She tapped the next clip. Because the next day every group like them surrendered. Without a fight. They believed the humans had done something worse than killing. Back in his private quarters, Commander Valar stared at Sergeant Keller's cell recording. He replayed the same moment over and over, when Keller leaned in and whispered, You don't want to know what a war crime looks like when we stop holding back. Valar opened a classified channel, requesting full access to Earth military archives, he said. Category, Black level clearance. The response came back seconds later. Request denied. Red listed species. Humanity. Valar's hands clenched. Override it. Meanwhile, Sergeant Keller sat quietly in the observation chamber. His wrists were no longer bound. His neural patch blinked green. He was connected to Earth Command even now. He poured himself a cup of alien water, tasted it and frowned. Tastes like guilt, he muttered. The door opened. Valar entered, his face pale and voice tight. I've reviewed your kind's combat files. Keller raised an eyebrow. Then I assume you've had a bad day. Valar swallowed hard. You violate every known rule of warfare. There is no pattern, no limit. Keller leaned back, relaxed. We have limits. Valar slammed the table. Then what do you call what your kind did on Zeta 4? Keller's smile faded. You mean the city we left standing, untouched, after neutralizing a biochemical threat? Or the one where we didn't drop a single bomb? Because we talked the enemy into leaving their own base? Valar looked confused. I read something else. Torture. Fire. Shadows. Keller's voice turned ice cold. That was before Earth had rules. The alien commander paced. We believed you were soft, that you obeyed laws, treaties, ethics. Keller nodded slowly. We do. Then why are your enemies afraid to test you? Keller stood up. His tone didn't change. But the air around him suddenly felt heavier. Because those rules? They exist for one reason only. Valar asked, what reason? Keller looked him dead in the eye. To remind us what we used to be. In the ship's main data center, the intelligence team continued their search. Another report popped up, marked, deleted from public record. They restored it. It was titled, Case Study Operation Ash Garden. The contents were simple. Population, 300,000 enemy soldiers. Human response, no firepower. Tactic, fear campaign. Ghost messages, artificial screams in the air. Result, 300,000 soldiers surrendered after 3 days with 0 casualties. Note, at the bottom, this operation is classified as psychological warfare and banned from future use. It works too well. One alien analyst dropped her tablet. They win wars without firing. Another whispered. They fight like monsters, but cry like children after. Their superior added quietly. No, they cry before, because they know what they can do, and they try not to. That night, Valar sat alone in the command chair. He watched Earth from far away. Not with hate, but with something worse. Understanding. He whispered to himself, I thought they were harmless. He leaned forward, until I realized they chose to be. In the shadows of deep space, unseen by any scanner, a message pulsed from a hidden ship. It read, Human restraint cracked. Protocol Hellglass may be next. Advise caution. Do not provoke further. The reply was a single line. Understood. Begin negotiations. Immediately. The prisoner who waited. The lights in Sergeant Keller's cell flickered. He didn't move. He just sat, calm as ever, hands folded, eyes closed, as if he were meditating, or maybe counting. Outside the thick steel door, alien guards whispered, nervously. 3 days, one muttered. 3 days and no retaliation. Maybe the humans don't care. The other guard shifted. Or maybe they're waiting. Inside the cell, Keller opened his eyes. He smiled faintly. They were waiting. But not because they were scared, because they were preparing. In a dark control room deep in the alien ship, red alarms suddenly flashed. Motion detected, unregistered signatures, 12 small objects moving fast. No lights, no signals. Too close, too quiet. The tactical officer shouted, Commander Valar, we have incoming. Unknown ships, no ID, no beacon. Valar jumped from his seat. Put visual on screen. The screen showed space, empty at first. Then, shadows, moved. Sleek, sharp shapes slid past the stars, like wolves running through the night. Not attacking, not talking, just approaching. Back in the cell, Keller stood. He rolled his neck, cracked his knuckles, and walked up to the door. The guards turned. Startled, step back! Keller didn't speak. He simply held up his wristband. It blinked. Green. The lights across the ship went out. In the dark, chaos broke out. Systems failed. Gravity shut off. Doors slammed closed. Screams echoed down the halls as armed soldiers lost their footing, weapons floating out of reach. And then the doors opened. But not all of them, just the one in front of Keller. He stepped out slowly, boots hitting the floor with a calm, steady rhythm. Around him, the emergency lights blinked red. Security, bots powered down one by one, and from the shadows, they appeared. Human operatives, clad in black armor, Helmets with no faceplate, no names, no sound, just silence and purpose. They didn't salute Keller. They didn't speak. They simply nodded and spread out. Keller turned a corner, walking toward the command deck like he owned the ship. Commander Valar shouted into the comms, "Security! Defend the bridge!" But no answer came. Only static. Then, in front of him, the bridge doors slid open. Keller stepped in alone. No gun. No armor. Just his calm, unreadable stare. Valar raised a pistol, hand shaking. Keller didn't flinch. "Don't," he said. Valar's hand trembled. "You're bluffing." "Am I?" One by one, screens lit up behind Keller. Live footage, alien crew tied up but unharmed. Weapons melted down, engines locked out, every system already compromised, all without a shot fired. Valar dropped his weapon. "Why didn't you kill us?" he asked, voice cracking. Keller stepped forward. "You don't understand what war crimes mean." Valar looked up, confused. I thought it meant destruction. Fire. Death." Keller leaned in, his voice soft. "No. It means we could have, but we didn't. Because we follow rules that protect even our enemies." He turned, walking away. "But if you keep testing us," he paused at the door, "you'll learn what it looks like when we stop following them." Elsewhere, the human operatives moved through the ship like smoke. They left behind no bodies, only silence, and a message, carved into the wall of the alien briefing room in 9 languages. This was not an attack. This was a visit. Next time, bring respect. Keller returned to his shuttle. The human team left quietly, ships vanishing into space before alien reinforcements could even launch. Inside the alien ship, no one dared chase them. Valar sat on the floor of the bridge, still shaking. One of his officers asked, "Commander, what do we tell the Union?" Valar looked at him with hollow eyes. "Tell them." The prisoner waited, and we're lucky he did. Meanwhile, deep in a hidden human command center, a general received the mission report. She read it silently, then leaned back in her chair. Another officer approached. "Was the message clear enough?" "Ma'am?" She smiled grimly. It wasn't a message, it was a whisper. She tapped her screen. "Now the galaxy listens." The Tribunal Files. In the capital city of Zoran Prime, the Grand Tribunal of the Galactic Union gathered in secret. The room was cold, dark, silent. 7 alien council members sat around a glowing, circular table. They were the most powerful minds in the galaxy. Leaders, judges, scholars, and all of them were afraid. In the center of the table hovered a digital cube. Inside that cube were thousands of documents, files stolen, leaked, and purchased at great risk. Files from Earth. Files marked classified, do not disseminate, Human Military Archive, 82G. War Conduct Files. Psych Tactical Level Red High Magistrate Thylon of the Krell Dominion cleared his throat. Today we examine what we once believed was exaggeration, myth, human propaganda. He looked around the table. We were wrong. He tapped. The cube. It opened. The first file showed a dark hallway. A small team of human soldiers stood before a steel door. They had no expressions. One of them placed a speaker next to the door. Then he pressed play. Screams. Not real. Recorded. Artificial. But horrifying. Inside the door, the enemy broke within minutes. The humans never even entered the room. The second file was even worse. A jungle war zone. A rebel force prepared for a surprise attack. But they never saw the humans. What they did see were fake patrols, hacked drones, false heat signatures. They fired blindly, for hours, wasting all their ammunition. When the real humans finally arrived, the rebels surrendered themselves. The council sat in stunned silence. Ambassador Loreth, an elder with 4 eyes and golden skin, whispered, "This is not strategy. This is psychological warfare beyond anything we imagined." Another counselor scrolled further. "What is Operation Red Fog?" she asked. The screen lit up. Red Fog was a mission where humans used weather control drones to shroud a city in thick red mist. They broadcast a low hum through the fog. Vibrations made the enemy hallucinate. No casualties, no attack. But the enemy abandoned the city in less than 12 hours. Some went mad, none returned. Counselor Jarek stood up in disbelief. They win wars without firing. They break the mind before the body. Magistrate Thalen replied grimly, because they know what war really is, and they have spent centuries studying how to avoid it. Another counselor snapped. Then why develop such methods at all? Thalen didn't blink. Because sometimes peace is denied. They watched one last file. It had no video, just a single transcript. Interview with Human General Harlan Rook. Date, Terran year 2119. Topic, War Conduct and Ethics Q. Why do you limit yourselves with rules during war, eh? Because if we didn't, no, one would survive. Q. What do you mean? We invented war crimes not for the enemy, but to protect the enemy from us. Q. Isn't that weakness? A. No, it's the strongest chain we've ever forged. Because the moment we break it, transcript, corrupted. The cube closed. No one spoke for a long time. Finally, Thalen said, we thought humans were kind, too emotional, too moral. He looked at the others. They are. But beneath that kindness is something far more dangerous. Later that night, Ambassador Loreth wrote a private message to her homeworld. The humans don't fight wars. They end them. Sometimes before they begin. Sometimes before you know they've started. And sometimes after you've already lost. Meanwhile, on Earth, in a quiet underground facility, Sergeant Keller walked through a long corridor. He passed a room labeled Behavioral Warfare Division. He didn't stop. He knew what was in there. He had helped write some of the files. He had lived some of them, and he hoped, prayed, that no one would ever need them again. Back on Zoran Prime, the Galactic Tribunal filed their final report. Subject: Humanity status. Red level species. Do not provoke. Summary: Humanity has created a system of self-restraint unmatched by any known species. They fear their own power more than they fear defeat. They value peace because they know what they are capable of when peace is gone. In hidden chambers across empires and dominions, the message spread: do not mock human kindness. It is not a weakness. It is a warning. The day they saw Earth. The alien ship broke through Earth's orbit slowly. No weapons, no threats. Just a peaceful diplomatic shuttle from the Galactic Union. Inside, 3 ambassadors sat in silence, watching the blue planet grow larger in the window. Ambassador Loreth, the elder alien diplomat with golden skin and 4 eyes, glanced at her companions. They were not here to negotiate. They were here to understand. After the tribunal's secret review of the human archives, Earth had sent an invitation. Come and see our home. Walk where we walk. See why we fight only when we must. It wasn't a threat. It was something worse. An open door. They landed in a quiet city by the sea. A man greeted them at the shuttle ramp. He was not wearing armor or medals, just a simple jacket, boots, and a name tag. Sergeant Keller. I'll be your guide, he said. No smile, just calm eyes. The aliens followed him. First, they passed through a vast green field, lined with stone markers and flags, a cemetery. Why begin here? Loreth asked softly. Keller replied, because this is where peace begins. The aliens walked among rows of names, thousands, tens of thousands. No names were marked with glory, only age, date of death, and small messages carved below. He died so others could walk free. She held the line. He was only 17. Next, Keller led them to a tall building with cracked walls and a missing roof. This is the War Museum, he said. We don't hide what we've done. Inside, the wall showed videos, images, and history, not of victory but of failure. The ruins of Hiroshima, the mass graves of World War III, the silent void after Mars colony burnout, the famine. After AI collapse, Elreth felt her throat tighten. You keep these? Keller nodded. So we don't forget, so we never repeat, she whispered. We thought humans glorified war. Keller looked at her. Only the ones who never saw it up close. They moved through the museum's darkest room. On the wall were quotes from soldiers. Some famous, some unknown. War is not hell. It's worse because we choose it. Every time I came back, a part of me stayed behind. I followed orders, then I broke down. I was the monster and I hated it. Loreth stopped walking. She had seen many battlefields in her life. But this was something else. Why show us this? She asked. Keller replied softly, because we're not proud of what we can do. We're proud of the fact that we don't. Later that evening, the group visited a classroom. Young human children sat quietly, learning about diplomacy and war ethics. The teacher pointed to a map of Earth. Peace is not the absence of power, she said. It is the use of power wisely. The children nodded. One girl raised her hand. If war is so bad, why do we still have armies? The teacher smiled. Because peace is a garden, and even gardens need fences. After nightfall, the aliens stood with Keller on a high cliff overlooking the ocean. The sky above was filled with stars. Keller pointed to one. That's the Zeta 5 colony, our first alliance with a non-human race. He pointed to another. That one is still empty. Because someone thought humans wouldn't fight back. Loreth turned to him. And they were wrong. Keller didn't smile. They weren't wrong. They were just early. Back at their shuttle, Loreth asked a final question. Sergeant, if humans fear their own power so much, why keep it at all? Keller looked her in the eye. Because some species mistake peace for weakness. He stepped back, letting them board. But now, you've seen what lives behind our silence. On the journey home, Loreth wrote a personal log for the Galactic Union Council. I have walked the human world. I have seen their graves, their guilt, their ghosts. They are not dangerous because of what they can do. They are dangerous because they remember why they shouldn't. Meanwhile, deep beneath Earth's surface, in a quiet command center, Keller sat alone. He watched a screen showing the alien shuttle leave. He sighed. One of the junior officers asked, Do you think they understood? Keller shrugged. Maybe, the officer said. But what if they didn't? Keller's eyes narrowed. Then next time, we won't need museums. Operation Night Garden. The message came through at 03:17 Earth time. Short, cold, dangerous. We have your people. Come get them if you dare. It was signed by the Dravari Independence Front, a radical alien faction from the Edge systems. They had kidnapped 15 human civilians from an off-world embassy. They expected Earth to respond with fear. They expected negotiations. They expected weakness. What they got was silence. Inside Earth Command's underground control room, a TOR red light blinked. Sergeant Keller stood over the table, reading the details. No one spoke. These weren't soldiers. They were families, teachers, medical staff, innocents. He looked up. Activate Night Garden, he said. The general across the room blinked. You're sure? Keller nodded. No warnings, no threats, no speeches, just action. 3 hours later, above the jungle world of Dravar 5, 6 small ships entered orbit. No weapons showed, no signals sent, no engines could be tracked. Each craft was matte black, silent as space itself. Inside them, men and women in no-mark armor checked their gear. They didn't speak. They didn't have to. They were part of Shadow Division 9, a unit that technically didn't exist. On the surface of Dravar V, the kidnappers celebrated. Their leader, Varnock, raised a glass and laughed. Earth won't risk war for a few workers, he said. They're afraid of being called aggressive. His men cheered. One of them asked, "What if they come anyway?" Varnock grinned. "Then we'll show the galaxy how weak they really are." 10 minutes later, the power went out. The lights in. Their jungle base shut off, the doors locked. Comms went dead. Varnock stood up, confused. Someone checked the grid, but no one moved, because outside the window, they saw something move. Black figures. Fast. Quiet. Sliding between shadows like smoke. Then one by one, guards vanished. No gunfire, no screams. Just gone. Inside the prisoner cell, the human hostages looked up. The lights flickered once, then a soft click. The door opened. Standing there was a figure in black armor, faceless and silent. He held out his hand. Time to go. The civilians followed him in silence. Not one Dravari guard saw them leave. At the landing zone, all hostages were loaded onto the silent shuttles. No alarms, no airstrikes, no resistance. The last ship lifted into the sky. Operation time, 47 minutes. Enemy. Casualties, 0. Dravari faction. Strength, broken. Back in their jungle compound, Varnock stood alone. The others had run or disappeared. On the wall behind him, a message had been carved into the steel, not with a weapon, but with something sharper. Single sentence in the human alphabet: "We don't come to win, we come to end it." Later, the Galactic Union received a report. Human civilians rescued. No evidence of assault. No retaliation. Just absence. The kidnappers were gone. Their base abandoned. No sound. No trace. Just that one message, and the name of the operation: Night. Garden Data, a reporter, asked the Earth spokeswoman during a press conference, why was no public statement made? No threat? No warning? She smiled politely. Because Earth does not negotiate with those who cross the line, he asked. What line? Her smile faded. The one they don't see until it's too late. In the aftermath, other factions withdrew threats against humans. Even pirate clans paused their attacks, not because of violence, but because of fear. The fear of being watched by something they couldn't see. The fear of silence. 1 week later, Keller visited the survivors. He didn't wear armor. He didn't talk about the mission, he just sat and listened. One child asked, "Was it scary?" Keller nodded. "Yes, but not for me." "Then for who?" He looked out the window. "For the ones who forgot what humans can do when you take someone they love." On a secure channel, a message echoed across deep space. "We recommend avoiding provocation of Earth at all costs. If civilians are harmed, humans respond with surgical silence. Repeat, they do not fight, they erase." The Treaty of Shadows. In a deep hall beneath the Galactic Union's fortress world, the Great Chamber was silent. For the first time in centuries, every major species sat at the same table. The Dravari, the Krell, the Uthari, even the silent Obzeran. And, at the end of the table, in a seat once kept empty by tradition, sat a human. Sergeant Keller. He wore no medals, no suit, just a plain jacket and sharp, calm eyes. Eyes that had seen war, and what comes after. High Magistrate Thalen stood. "This meeting is not open to the public, not recorded, not stored. What happens today is for the survival of our civilizations." He turned toward Keller. "Earth has shown restraint, but also power. Your kind calls them war crimes. We once mocked the term." He looked down. "We don't anymore." A whisper moved through the room. Counselor Zarek stood. "I propose a new law, a treaty of shadows, one that respects, not the strength of humanity, but the cost they carry." She took a breath. "No more poking Earth, no more pushing, no more assuming silence means fear." A low voice from the shadows added, "Because silence is now our loudest warning." Thalen nodded. "Let Earth define its limits. Let humans decide their own engagement rules. We will respect them. We will not provoke them." Keller finally spoke. His voice was soft, but clear enough to make every ear in the room stop moving. You want to avoid war with us? That's smart. He paused. But that's not enough. Every eye locked onto him. Keller leaned forward. You don't need to fear us. You need to understand us. He pointed to his own chest. We are not monsters. We just remember what it's like to be treated like one. He stood, walking slowly toward the center of the room. When we say war, crimes, we don't mean destruction. We mean the moment a soul forgets the value of another. He looked at each of them. You keep asking what happens if humans break their rules. He paused. You should be asking what happens when you do. The room remained silent. Then, surprisingly, a Juthari general stood and stepped forward. He removed his helmet, a great show of vulnerability, and extended a hand. We believe you now, he said. We will honor the Treaty of Shadows. One by one, others followed. No applause, no celebration, just silent understanding. Respect earned, not through war, but through restraint. The treaty was signed within the hour. It included a permanent, non-aggression pact with Earth, access to the Galactic Peacekeeping Council for human observers, a clause named the Keller Protocol. Any threat to Earth civilians is considered an act of galactic suicide. Later that evening, Keller sat alone in a quiet room with a view of the stars. He didn't smile. He didn't relax. He just watched, as if waiting for someone. A young alien aide entered. Sergeant, are you all right? Keller nodded. But then he said something unexpected. I hope no one ever needs me again. The aide blinked. But you saved so many. Keller looked at the stars, and I became something I didn't want to be. To do it. Back on Earth, news of the Treaty of Shadows spread quietly. No victory parades, no medals, just a new line in the books of law, written in bold. Never confuse kindness with weakness. Never mistake peace for surrender. Never again test what Earth tries so hard to contain. In the galactic records, humans were finally reclassified, not as unpredictable, not as primitive, but as high-risk ethical combatants, capable of mercy, capable of madness, but above all, capable of choosing restraint. Years later, young alien cadets would be taught about Earth's strange power, not their weapons, not their ships, but something far scarier, a word few truly understood. Boundaries. In a new training hall, a quote was carved into black stone, a quote from a man who once stood alone in a room of enemies and made them listen. We do not want war, but we remember it. Well, and if pushed, we will make sure you remember it too. Sergeant Keller, Human Forces.